Hello everybody, thank you very much. In my 20s, when I finished my studies, I travelled around Australia and ended up living in a Buddhist colony. And what I learned there actually became the title of this talk, that we live in two worlds. We live in two worlds. We live in a finite world, a world of limited resources. We all know that. It's a fragile world. We call the earth our home. But we also live in an inner world, our inner world of infinite possibilities. And we see expressions of this everywhere in the world, don't we? Every piece of art and every bit of technology is that expression of that passion or that interest of expressing our infinite possibilities. But these worlds generally don't meet passively. In today's world, they really collide. They actually smash against each other. In fact, they declare war on each other in some cases. No more is that true than an environmental movement. I mean, if you look at the species extinction, 50 to 100 species become extinct every day. The amount of oil we use in this world every year took the world itself 3 to 4 million years to create. Talking about a social issue, we think we're civilised. Every 3 seconds in this world, someone dies of starvation, a human. Not of AIDS or a disease, but of starvation. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you get the message, yeah. It's really, really, really scary when you think about things like that. It really is what Wendell Berry said. The world is being destroyed by popular demand. I think that's, if you ever read anything of Wendell Berry's, if you haven't, read everything. He's absolutely brilliant. And I think this mind, the background, it's a marble mine in Italy, depicts exactly what's happening in this world. People all around this country and other countries around the world really pride themselves if they invite you into your home and show you their marble floors or their marble bench tops. Say, well, where's that from? Oh, it's an Italian marble. With a distinct disconnect. See, we don't have environmental problems, really. We don't have social problems. We have disconnect problems. That marble bench top or that marble floor may have been, or was in some cases, a mountain in Italy which has been decapitated, then levelled, and then a big hole dug in the ground. We have a real disconnect problem between everything we do and the results we see in our daily lives. Very serious. But in nature, actually, rather than collide, in nature we know opposites unite. And they're not linear thinking. In nature, nothing is linear. It's all cyclic. If you look at the hydrologic cycle of evaporation, condensation, precipitation, it's continuous cycles. And we generally think or live in a lifestyle of linear movements. And we've got to change this. I came to this realisation a couple of decades ago and I decided to go into business. Strange concept, wasn't it, when you think about it. But I realised at the time that in the past, over the last few millennia, different people led society. There was religious leaders, kings and queens, and even warriors at times led society. But we'd all have to agree that today it's business people that lead society, for better or for worse, and in most cases, dare I say, for worse. But that also represents an opportunity for business to make that change. And I like to distinguish between what generally we call business and what I personally like to use the word enterprise, because enterprise to me means about self-expression. It's not about doing business for the sake of business. And a business will really start off, every business I've spoken to who doesn't have an enterprising perspective starts off with the bottom line. It's profits. It's a fundamental source of starting a business. But using the distinction between a business and an enterprise will start off with a mission or a purpose. Someone wants to change something. I call myself a person who's on a replacement mission. That is, replace what's there that's maybe polluting. This is very, very important. We hear the word service in business a lot. Everybody in business talks about service, but what service is it? The service is purely there for customers so you gain a profit. This is just jargon. It doesn't reflect the true meaning of the word service. When a service is made possible from an enterprise perspective through making a profit. I trust that you understand the distinction there, the difference. Miller Falls up North Queensland, spent a lot of time there collecting leeches all over my body in my 20s. Anyway, what is nature? In order for an enterprise to really reflect what it should be for the betterment of society as a whole, it really needs to have some criteria, and I'm sure you agree. And the criteria is really quite simple. It needs to reflect nature. It does need to be beautiful. Imagine if every enterprise in the world said beauty is now one of our prominent criteria. Can you imagine that? We're going to create a beautiful enterprise. That's going a bit fast. It is very, very important. We need that criteria. So in order to have that criteria, we've also got to change our language. Sustainability is no longer a good word. It's far gone as far as an effective word. As my wife Marina says, who wants to sustain a deficit? If you have debt on your credit card, do you want to sustain that? Do you want to be sustainable? No. Do we want to be sustainable in a way? Sustainable just means sustaining what's there, sustenance. Some people do move further and move into, I've turned it off now, move into conservation. And conservation is a very good move forward, but it really also has limitations, but it means hanging on to what we have, and that's good. But in order to reflect nature, we really got to go a step further and talk about regeneration. Nature is cyclic. It's totally, everything regenerates, one thing after another. We've got to look at all these things very, very seriously. And each one of us can actually look at what we call, Marina and I call, the domino effect. In other words, I think all of us here would have reason to want to contribute more to society for social issues, poverty issues, health issues, environmental issues, but there's a lot of dominoes, aren't there? So the most important way we believe to take care of that is actually choose one thing that if you do your best and really work towards it, it will have a domino-like effect and knock other things over. And for us, it's actually agriculture, or really how our food is grown and distributed. Agriculture, it really is a cult today. And if any place that these two worlds of infinite possibilities and finite resources collide, it's actually in agriculture. We talk about global warming, it really should be called global destabilisation, but that's what's occurring. 30% of global warming, destabilisation, can be directly attributed to agriculture. We create 3.3 billion kilograms of pesticides every year, with 6.6 roughly billion people. That's 500 grams per every man, woman and child. Sufficient to kill us all. But we don't take it orally in 1 year, but it is killing something else, our home. Absolutely. So agriculture is really a very, very important thing to look at, extremely. And it really has to change into something that's an organic polyculture. Organic without the artificial fertilisers, synthetic pesticides, weedicides, fungicides. What is a pesticide? Pesticide, icide, the Latin means to kill or murder, like homicide, homo sapienicide, human being aside, to kill or murder a human being. Pesticides, we declare war on nature through our agricultural practices. Yet if you look at a polyculture system, and many people are starting to look at polyculture systems, polyculture is the way to go. Poly meaning, of course, many. Poly, if you look at something, the symbiotic relationship between something like corn and a legume like beans, if you plant corn naturally takes a lot of nitrogen out of the soil. So if you just plant acres and acres of corn, you've got to put something back into it. However, if you grow it in a symbiotic way with something, a legume like a bean, beans generally take nitrogen out of the soil and fix it back into the out of the atmosphere, and back into the soil. So you have this relationship. This has gone on for millennia, forever, in rainforests. This system we can do with our agriculture, and of course animals need to be included. If you look at a 500 kilo cow, just in any given year, just through its dung, I bet our dung's not as good, it can put 37 kilos of calcium, about 105 kilos of nitrogen, phosphorus, all back into the soil, just from keeping the grass low. It's really quite amazing when we really study these things. We really also, the other component is actually going local. We really, I'm sure a lot of you know this and believe this, but we've got to practice this, to go local. This is a beautiful map of the real map of Australian lions, the bioregional map of Australia. The green aspect, of course, is this Wollumben or Mount Warning bioregion, which stems roughly from Lismore up until the Sunshine Coast. This is where pretty much most of us live, and we need to start acting locally. But the key factor really is the combining factor of all three. It means participation. Several years ago, I was speaking on a panel at the University of Oregon at the International Environmental Law Conference. All the Americans use such long titles for their conferences. Anyway, it was really quite an enlightening event for me. I'm not a lawyer, but I was invited to attend as a green entrepreneur. I don't know what green means. To me, nature is actually multicoloured. Apples aren't always green, oranges aren't green, etc. But I really learned something there. A professor of law, and I've forgotten his name, used the term intergenerational tyranny. And what he meant was that today's people, every generation alive today, is committing tyrannous acts on future generations. You and I. And we're not doing this out of willful spite. We don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to destroy that next generation, if not the one after. No one does that. But we do that through participation. As someone, a friend of mine in America, sent me an email with a quote from somebody recently about the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. He said, "Ye that does not use oil or plastic or petrol in any form throw the first stone." We created that mess. And until we understand that on a really deep level, it will keep getting worse. It's not out there. Absolutely not. So participation, we can actually change that in those things that we all really believe in, but maybe not act on. So it's about really what we term creating a preferred future. Not a possible future, not a probable future, but a preferred future. And a preferred future can only be described with two people's wise words. Einstein said, God does not play dice. In other words, there is no coincidence. And plus, in conjunction with Gandhi's words, be the change we wish to see. In other words, we need to take responsibility, which another word really much stronger is ownership, as if we did own the future that we need to create. And this summarises in what we call a blue sky economy. A blue sky economy is really exactly what it says. It does incorporate blue sky thinking. In other words, to exercise our infinite possibility type way of thinking. That why not? Why not create such a scenario? But it must be in alignment or in conjunction with blue sky biosphere. That is, our limitations where we live. When you combine these two opposites, we can get very, very creative. If it's just business as usual, it won't work. If we just try and stop everything, it won't work. But creating a future where these two are combined is absolute. And lastly, of course, it's got to be clean, pollution-free, a true blue sky. That aspect came in some years ago when I was in Mexico City, and an acquaintance of mine said, hey, did you hear about this? Lately, a school in the region, there was a competition for all the children, and they were to paint the environment around them. And every child, to the amazement of the teachers, painted the sky brown or black. A real reflection of Mexico City, certainly when I was there. So this is the criteria for what we call a blue sky economy. And we do need to create that with what we participate in. I just want to end up on with a joke. It's an Irish joke. My father's Irish. My mother's Maltese. That means I'm an Australian, I guess. Yeah, would you agree? Probably. Anyway, it happened in Ireland. There was an Englishman who was lost in Cork, where my father's from. Not many signs in County Town, Bear area. Anyway, the Englishman notices a farmer in a field, and he walks over to the farmer and said, "Excuse me, dear chap, I'm totally baffled. I don't know how to get to Tipperary from here. How can I do that?" The farmer leans on his shovel like a good Irishman would. "Tipperary from here, lad. Hey, simple as such. You go this way. See Murphy's farm on the hill there? You go over that hill, turn right. Then again. Go this way. Sullivan's pub. Have a good start on the way. Go down, past the stream. Then again. If I was going to Tipperary, I wouldn't even begin here." And the moral of the joke is we've got to begin from where we are right now. Thank you very much, everybody.